Home, the gold.
He could be too far. No, he's kicking. Oh, what a catch!
Puts a spicy forehand out in front of Naomi Morcilla.
Move for the win. Team Canada. Darren Wu!
Santos with the layout grab.
Oh, that fantastic grab. The claws of Chaffer.
Canada just became the world champions.
Canada and the rest of the world, you're listening to the Huckin podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Theo Wan, now residing in the Kingston, Ontario.
And I'm Danie Proby from Vancouver, BC, and together we are your coast-to-coast guide to all things Canadian Ultimate. I want to start this episode by saying this is actually our second take. I am a little sick and tired. So first of all, I'm sick, so I might sound a little stuffy. Second of all, I'm a little under the weather, so I'm a little tired, and I accidentally hooked up the wrong mic. So I thought I was muting myself when I was coughing, and in fact, I was just coughing straight into Theo's ear. So Theo, thank you for your patience, forever and always. Also, your haircut looks really fresh. How was your weekend?
I'm just trying to keep the aerodynamism as I'm getting ready to get back into the Frisbee fold. So, not retiring as a podcaster per se or commentator, but, dipping the toes back into Frisbee. So the haircut hopefully will help. Big shout out to Dino's here locally in Kingston, Ontario. In terms of the weekend, it was very busy for us. We had our men's hockey opener, I don't want to say it's sold out, but it was definitely pretty full. And then we had our two senior games, women's and men's soccer. And we got a lot of festivities for it too. So, you got to come out and support your local university seniors wherever you are. But for us, we had free t-shirts. We had a portable bar, free pizza. It was a good time. People were loving life and enjoying themselves. So that was my weekend. It was a little tricky trying to keep up with some of the other teams' results. I know one team, spoiler alert, possibly in the semifinals on Saturday when all these festivities were taking place on my end. So it was tough to keep up with it all, but overall, good weekend, rested up now. So can't really say the same for you, Danie, but let's talk about your weekend, or I should say week, because it was a few days there in sunny California.
Yeah, it was amazing. I just had such a negative experience the first time I played for Traffic, and I also tore my ACL and all of that stuff, and I didn't honestly think that I would get the chance to play, nor did I want to initially. And this team has totally captured my heart. I'm obsessed. They make me, and I think everyone, feel so comfortable. Everyone's so goofy and weird. Everyone works really hard for each other. It's a really cute vibe. We did warm fuzzies for everybody. It was just we're already talking about off-season training. We're getting a basketball league going. We're going to play pickleball. We're obsessed with each other. So I'm feeling elated.
You can't see Danie's face right now, but the jubilation is very clear. And, I'm going to give a PSA to those who think pickleball is an easy sport. You should go try it, because I've tried it, and it's not that easy. The seniors are hitting it and making moves on the court that make it look easy, but it's not. Go to your local YMCA or wherever you are and try to play some pickleball. But Danie, we're all about the predictions here on the podcast. So I'm going to let you predict who's going to win or be the MVP of all these sports for Traffic. Who's just the most beast athlete that you're they're going to win and take home, what is it, the Traffic Cup? I don't know what your team does. So who do you think is going to win? You can vote for yourself if you want.
Yeah, I definitely want to vote for myself for basketball, but Andrea Moyer is quite tall and aggressive. I'm not actually sure if she's played much basketball, but if she has, she would maybe be my number one pick. Besides myself, you got to bet for yourself. I know Danie Sue played a lot of basketball, but Denny's quite a bit smaller than me, so I can crush her. For pickleball, we're also going to do squash. I heard Jessica Rockcliffe's pretty good at squash. We're going to do rock climbing. Nicola Parker's really good at rock climbing. So I think it's going to be pretty even across the board, but I think my sheer determination to win stupid games might give me a slight edge.
And this honestly gives ideas for other teams. If you're an ultimate team that's played, especially those at USAU, you've been training for a long time, since, April or whatever, May. It's a long time lot part of the year. So go out and try different sports. I love it. As a former phys ed teacher for young whippersnappers out there, young kids, I always recommend it. Don't put your kid in for hockey 12 months a year. Like, let them play other stuff. And I still think that reigns true as an adult. So go try different stuff, rock climbing, spike ball, pickleball, whatever it is. You got to love that. So, maybe other teams are inspired to do something like that.
Yeah, speaking of inspiration, we were inspired for something that I would love to talk about in the news section. So enough chit chat. Let's get over this. Let's head to the news.
We now have breaking news.
We're in the news segment, folks. It's the news time. And, you talk about inspiration. We're going to give some love here to McGill Ultimate Team. They sent this message in, I think it was, I don't want to say beginning of the season, but definitely during the university season, they talked about this to us, about some awards. And, we got inspired. So yours truly over there, Danie Proby, getting things started for us. And we made this form, and now teams are voting. So we've seen some come in. But Danie, since your idea, you kind of got the wheels turning for us. So big shout out there, pat on the back. Why don't you tell us all the different categories? We talked about it last week, but just a little friendly reminder for the Huckin audience.
We have 5 categories. So coming in number 1, we have Rookie of the Year. We have Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, just General MVP, and the Huckin Heart Award. So the Huckin Heart Award, that unsung hero, that person that's like your glue person, your glue human for your team, the one that hypes you up, makes big plays when it matters. I think that's the best award, personally.
And the nominations we've been getting for it, the nominations we've been getting for it are like the top players have been pouring their heart out for the team. So it's players that have been like grinding hard for their program and really been putting in work. So love recognizing them. And Danie, I know you've read these, and so it warms your heart, of course, to see that. And I love the idea that you put on the form, which was you got to tell us why. It's not just you don't just name a person. You got to tell us why. And so seeing what people are saying about that's pretty cool too.
Yeah, it's seriously wonderful to read, because I know a lot of these players too. Maybe I've seen them grow up in high school, and to see them be either leaders on their team or like new players on their team and to be recognized is just really cool. So super excited about that. Also excited about U24 tryouts coming November 12th and 13th in Burnaby, BC. Lots of athletes coming from Manitoba, Alberta. We're going to obviously have lots from BC. So I'm excited to kind of get that whole process wrapped up so we can start building our rosters. Ultimate Canada Conference is also happening same weekend as my wedding. Very rude. So November 19-20, it's mostly like you can do some in-person stuff, but I think a lot of it is to be online. So if you don't live where the conference is, no worries. Online portion. It's always a good time. It's so nice to see other organizers and coaches from across the nation. So if you haven't gone before, haven't attended the workshops, I highly suggest that you do that.
We're also going to highly suggest you stay tuned for the main event. We're going to be talking USAU recap. We got lots coming at you, so stay tuned for that after this quick break.
This episode has been brought to you by VC Ultimate. VC Ultimate has been producing custom uniforms and performance apparel right here in Canada since 1998. VC's sublimated gear is made from 100% recycled FlexLight fabric, and design services and product samples are both free. Get your VC jersey today.
Hey, c'est Phil Dorval, directeur technique pour Ultimate Québec, et vous écoutez le Huckin Podcast, votre guide pour l'Ultimate canadien d'un océan à l'autre.
Okay. I'm going to kick us off. We're going to do all of pool play first. So we have 4 Canadian teams in attendance at this tournament. So we're going to start with Sixers. Your hometown heroes, Theo. So they had their first pool play game against Nightlock. 15-5 was the final score. So coming out with a statement. Molly Lewis, 3 assists. Inko Westman, 3 goals and an assist. Strong for their squad. So they're feeling good. They're going to play Grit. We know that Grit's going to bring a little bit more fire. No worries. 14-9. Hannah Dawson with a goal, 2 assists, and 2 blocks, coming up really big in this game. Now, their final game of pool play is the game that everybody was kind of anticipating. Ultiworld kind of stated this would be maybe potentially the biggest upset in pool play. Sixers are up 8-5 at half. Then even 9-6, so they're up by 3 goals at one point. So flip side slowly start kind of creeping back in, getting some breaks here or there. All of a sudden we're tied at 11s. Traded all the way to be tied at 14-14. We got universe on our hands here. So Sixers end up coming down with the goal. They end up with the big upset in pool play. We'll talk a little bit later about what that means. But first of all, shout out to GOAT. These guys are in the end zone. Every time Sixers are scoring, they're going wild. Dos Santos catches a goal. They all stand up, rip off their shirts. They're throwing them around. It was hilarious. So I've always been a really big fan of when colleges or cities cheer for each other. I think it's really great to have that solidarity. And this is just like a really nice moment for me to kind of see something like this. Makes me really want Furious to be there next year. I think they want to be there too. So Cindy Trong, big in that game, 4 assists and a block. Dos Santos, 5 goals, 2 assists. And most interestingly, no turnovers. I think when you're somebody that scores and throws goals in the way that Britt Dos Santos does, to have no turnovers in a game that's against a top tier team is a pretty incredible stat line. Molly Wedge also contributing big, 2 goals, 1 assist, and 3 blocks. That game mattered. It wasn't just like any normal pool play game. If they won that game, that meant that they were going to be playing the winner of Traffic versus Schwa in quarters rather than the number 1 seed Fury in quarters. So there's a lot at stake. So Sixers pulling off this Universe Point win really set them up for success.
That's once again another spoiler. You probably already know the results, but we got to break it down. And for the Sixers, I think Molly Wedge being a great addition for them. I know played at Pro Champs as well, and see her fit seamlessly onto the squad. I believe she's playing O, if I'm not mistaken, and really just stepping up there. And we know that she was a big player, obviously was on the British World Games team as well. So just another piece to add to the talent that Sixers has. So you mentioned that it set up avoiding Fury. Unfortunately, this team I'm talking about next could not avoid Fury because it was in pool play. So that's your neck of the woods, Traffic. You play 2 teams that you had played previously last year in 2021 in Parcha and Nemesis, Parcha being out of Pittsburgh and Nemesis out of Chicago. And then you played Fury. So we're going to talk about the first 2 pool play games. For those who might not remember or might not know at all, Catherine Hui, otherwise known as now Catherine Menzies Chewy, a big-time player, World Games, was hurt in a game against Parcha earlier at Worlds. So something that a lot of athletes can understand is, and you mentioned this with the ACL thing, Danie, getting back into playing a sport after you got hurt is always tough. And especially against a team that it happened against. I mean, that's like extra tough. So big kudos for that one. And I'm sure the team was just extra fired up for this game in general. Parcha broke early, but Traffic, you shut the door. You take half 8-4 and you cruise to the victory there.
I think I said this to my team at the time too, but there were so many things that I think happened for Traffic this tournament that made me feel like the storyline was like written for us to have a specific experience. The fact that Chewy's first game back was against this team and it was the first game at Nationals, I think puts a lot of pressure on her. I just was really impressed with her. She played the very first point of the game. When our coach called her name, we were basically all crying. It was just such a nice moment to see her be back on the field. And just the resiliency, I think if you're a young athlete or if you're somebody that is dealing with an injury, it's just think about this story, because I think it means a lot to those newer players coming up to know that you can come back and you can be resilient and you can have success. And I think that there was like all the odds are stacked against Chewy in this moment, and she really like rose to the occasion. It was a really special game to be a part of for Traffic.
And for your coach as well to make that happen, like that's pretty cool as well, understanding the gravity of the moment and understanding the players as well involved and if they can handle it or not. So, that's a job of a coach, as you know, Danie. So big kudos to Traffic's coach as well. And then Nemesis, I was surprised at this result. They beat Traffic at Pro Champs. So Traffic was wanting to get this one back. You got the D-line crushing it out here in this game. Monica Sue, 3 blocks and a goal. You got Danie Sue out here for the D-line with 3 assists and a goal. And whenever a D-line player is stacking up assists, the break train is rolling. So as I mentioned on the top there, 15-7 victory. Got to feel good there. Then you run into the Big Bad Fury. And Terry Whitehead still making blocks out there, making plays for Traffic. But you were down 8-4 at half. So want to give us some insight on that? It's a team that everyone knows. The name incites fear into many. So what was the mindset going into this game and even at half with the scoreline the way it was?
I believe we went into that game believing that we could beat them. We, I think, lost by 2 to them at WUC. So we knew that if we played at our best, it was possible. I feel like with our season the way that it was, we didn't get as many games against these top 4 to even 6 teams in the division to be fully prepped for this. I think we played Molly Brown at Pro Champs, but most of our games had been against that kind of like 8 to 20 ranked team, and we just weren't ready for the pace. We weren't ready for how close the defense would be to us, the physicality in general. So I'm excited. Again, this is a bit spoiler, but next year we get to play against the top teams the whole season. So hopefully that helps us be able to show up in these games when it matters.
And with that pool play loss, if you come second or third in your pool, you end up in pre-quarters. So that's where you ended up against a familiar opponent in Schwa. And we'll let you know the results of that once we finish pool play. So now we're going to jump to a Vancouver team here in Red Flag, another Vancouver squad, but Red Flag. My mixed pick, so I'm still a prophet when it comes to this topic. And Red Flag was able to show up and make some moves here on day 1.
Yeah, so I know Ultiworld was thinking they weren't going to win any games, although they were a good pick for the picks contest or whatever, or the game.
Hashtag the game. I want to know how I did, but yeah.
Hashtag the game, because they have a lot of upset potential. And they started right away with an upset. So 15-14 win over Toro to start the tournament. It's a relatively clean game in terms of turnovers. Not a lot of blocks anyway, maybe more unforced errors happening. Mika Kurhashi, a household name at this point, 4 goals and 1 assist in the first game. Then they go to play AMP and they end up losing by 2. So they were 11 and AMP was 13. Flag was down 1-7 at one point in this game. So they obviously mounted a huge comeback. They're a team that is really motivated with momentum, with energy. So once it starts going, it can be a pretty scary thing. It's hard to stop. Gagan 1 goal, 3 assists, and 3 blocks in this game. They finished the day with a 15-13 win over Shame. So Flag's up 8-5 at half. They slowly let Shame kind of creep back in, including Shame getting 3 breaks right at the end. Bang, bang, bang. This let Shame creep back into the 3-way tie situation. So before I even talk about the 3-way tie, Sam Creed, 4 assists. Amazing. Zelmont and Kevin Tong both had 2 blocks each for the D-line. So they're in a 3-way tie. If they had just closed out that Shame game just a little bit earlier, they would have taken the number 1 seed. But instead, because of point differential and everything, they ended up coming 3rd. So instead of getting a bye to quarters against Dragon Thrust, they were now set to play pre-quarters against Polar Bears. So another thing that I thought was really interesting is that for Flag through this whole tournament, I kept seeing posts like bad bid, controversy, blah, 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 like on Reddit, on Twitter, and you click it and it's against Red Flag. Like it seems like in the mixed division, there's a lot of bad bids being had. I saw so many videos of bad body control against the Flag players. And it's specifically in this game we're going to be talking about that they play against Polar Bears. a male matching player on Polar Bears just literally like trucks Eleanor Young as she's making an undercut. She's super open. It was horrible. So I don't know what's going on in the mixed division. It's like really volatile on Twitter. It's really volatile on Reddit, and you don't see that in the other divisions. So I don't really know what is going on there.
Danie mentioned the multiple threads. Our podcast got mentioned in the thread as well, so that was very interesting. Someone calling us subpar. So for the Redditor that did that, we appreciate it. The hate and the love, we'll take it all. So calling us a subpar podcast, we'll own that as well. That's your opinion. So
I think I know who it is anyways.
Oh, is it actually someone you know?
Yeah.
Oh,
I can tell.
That's
from their history.
Okay, that's even better. So we do appreciate that, whoever it is. But I think something to think about is when you play teams that have a certain reputation, which the reality is Red Flag has built one this season through different tournaments, and you can see it in Spirit scores or in videos or things like that. Certain teams might have a chip on their shoulder or just come in with a certain expectation. So that's something that you got to take into account. I'm not saying this is their only fault here or someone's fault, but it's just sometimes when you play, some teams have a certain preconception going into it. So that can change things as well. And yeah, I didn't see all of that. Of course, I wasn't fully there or there at all. So you just gotta, sometimes these things happen, and you gotta be better. That's all I'm gonna say. So we're gonna move on to open pool play here and talk about my neck of the woods, Toronto Goat. So you talk about upsets. Red Flag had an upset earlier, first game, and so did Goat. Big kudos to who was live streaming. I know Flatballer was live streaming some stuff, and then Adam O'Donnell, who was hurt, also live streaming for us later on. But you get a big win in pool play against the eventual tournament champions. So, spoiler alert there, if you didn't know, Johnny Bravo does win the title. But wow, like that is cool. Ian McKenzie putting up 4 assists and a goal. Ryan Polaz, I've always liked him as a player ever since I saw him last year on the Ottawa Outlaws. And now he's on GOAT, and he's tearing it up. But GOAT was leading for most of the game. Bravo able to string some breaks back and then make it on Universe. But GOAT able to take it. So that's how you get the tournament started, with a big upset. You then run into the big bad DC truck stop down, and you go down 15-7. You're down 8-3 at half. So it's always tough to come back from. Everyone's favorite, JJ Edwards, 2 goals and assists, and Jason Lamb with 2 blocks out there for GOAT. The final game. This is a grudge match contest, okay? Because for those who don't know, Omen was the team that beat them in a tournament earlier. I believe ESC was the tournament specifically. And they actually basically stole a bid from the Northeast, and then GOAT proceeded to steal the bid from Dig. So this is a big grudge match. Luke Comire, this is a main handler for this team that might not always get the assists. It's the same in the AUDL for him, but he stirs the drink for this team in terms of moving the offense, okay? Mike McKenzie has 3 assists, and I hope I'm saying his name right, but Gail Anselin, their little European, their big European import, making things happen. 6 goals, 2 assists. He was great all tournament. When I was watching any of the GOAT streams, he was a big part of this squad. So kudos for grabbing him. You finished second in the pool, which sets you up with a pre-quarter matchup with Double Wide, a team that they have played previously in some pre-quarters. So there's a little history there. Obviously, the teams have changed, but that's what happened there in pool play. After all of pool play wrapping up, we got pre-quarters. That is on the Friday, so that's always fun because every team there is fighting for their lives. So we're going to start off in women's pre-quarters. We mentioned Sixers got a bye, so they ain't playing this. We're going to move on to traffic, and we talked about this on the preview show that there was a very good possibility that Traffic and Shaw would play, and it was a familiar opponent, Traffic being 5-0 on the season against this squad. Some big wins at regionals as well, commanding, if I say so myself. But sometimes when this happens, you go into a game perhaps overlooking your opponent. That could happen. A couple errors from each person, it leads to a big advantage for Schwa. Schwa just hitting their shots out here. And before you know it, you're down half 8-4. So before I even give some love to the stats people for this game, Danie, you were there. What were the vibes like? You're down 8-4 against a team that you haven't lost to all year.
Yeah, there were certain leaders on the team that are really trying to get the team to believe and stuff, but it was hard because it seemed like every single person, well, it's not every single person, but like the people that we normally rely on to be consistent, to make big plays, were just kind of having some uncharacteristic moments. And even if it was just like one moment for a few people, it was enough moments. And so everyone kind of seemed to look like they weren't believing as much by the end. But once we started playing a little bit more loose at the end, we started having a lot more success. So I don't know what happened. The vibes are very strange. And I think people were quite frustrated afterwards because they weren't sure if was Schwa just better, and they did have different players at nationals than they did at regionals and any other tournaments. So they were like physically bigger and they didn't have some of their younger players there on their roster. But still, like, was it them or was it us? We just kind of didn't really know. So we were a little rattled for sure.
Yeah, and so unfortunately, if you're a Traffic fan in the audience, you already know the result, but Schwa does take the game. Andrea Moyer, 2 goals, a big part of their D-line, along with Brianne Wager with 3 blockaroos. Jessica Rockliff with 3 assists, but you can put up these good stat lines for an individual player. But you mentioned if a couple players that you lean on don't have the games you need from them, it just doesn't go your way. So Traffic, unfortunately, eliminated from championship contention, not eliminated from the contention of the pro flight, which is something we'll talk about later. But that leads us to another pre-quarters matchup in your neck of the woods in Vancouver.
Yeah, so we had Flag versus Polar Bears. So we've talked about this is the game where there's that kind of horrendous bid. Like, I think it was brutal. So Flag is down 4-8 at half. So a bit of a slow start, and they just could not recover for the whole game. So one thing I do want to shout out is that Lauren Sedofung, grade 11 from Burnaby North here in BC, 2 blocks in this game. There's a photo sequence of Lauren getting this like sick layout block on this female matching player on Polar Bears. It is insane. Like, she's so good for her age. It's crazy that she's able to step on this field and compete with these adults. It's just amazing. She's U20 as well, if y'all don't remember. But so they end up losing this game 10-15. They couldn't recover from that's kind of slow start. So this meant that they were going to be facing Toro again. So now they're kind of like bumped out of quarters contention, just like Traffic. So now they're fighting for the pro flight. So they can still come up to 7th place. It's still possible at this point.
And you mentioned Lauren there, and not the only U20 or high school player on Red Flag. So they got another one out there as well, right, Danie? Is that right?
Yeah, Danae Jan also is Hansworth, secondary, is also out there running around playing. I think Danae Jan was part of like a 5 break in a row train that they had against another team later on. So Danae gets some minutes on the big stage.
I don't know how, if you're a high school student, you are playing at USAUs, which many adults that play Ultimate for a long time have yet to enjoy. So when you go back and play high school Ultimate, this just might feel like a breeze. So yeah, great stuff there. Now open pre-quarters. I mentioned GOAT taking on Double Wide. 8-7 half was the scoreline, and trading back and forth. Couple of breaks at the end to force a universe point. They did start on defense, and unfortunately not able to come up with the W. Adam O'Donnell streaming this on his Twitch. So big thank you, Adam, for doing that, because we got a chance to keep an eye on the action. I got a chance to watch that live. And, Go was fighting back, and people were getting pretty fired up in the chat. There was a lot of Toronto fans out there getting fired up, but unfortunately not able to come down with it. Luke Comire continued to make things happen. He got some big minutes, especially at the end, getting called on the power line there. 1 goal, 2 assists, a block. JJ Edwards, 3 goals, assists, and a block. And then James Lewis, he had a breakout year in the AUDL, doing it on the club stage as well. 4 goals, an assist, and a block, but just was not enough there. Close game against Double Wide. They're also fighting for pro flight after this. So you got no teams in the core except for one. And Danie, you're going to talk about it because it was a good game.
Because why? Yes. So Sixers rolling into quarters. So again, we all know this story. Sixers gets to play Schwa now instead of Traffic. Everyone wanted the Canada matchup, I'm pretty sure. But Sixers go up 8-6 at half. Schwa never recovered. That was basically kind of Sixers every once in a while just getting a break. Alyssa Mason, big game. 1 goal, 3 assists, 2 blocks. Lauren Kamara with 5 assists in this game as well. So those two lighten up. So this meant that Sixers were to face Molly Brown in semis. I'm going to dive right in. This is exciting.
Do it. Let's go. Yeah. Good game, though.
I was very sad because when you think of the playing styles of these two teams, I just got really excited to see this matchup. And this game just happened to be the exact same time that our game was. So we couldn't actually watch it live. We did watch it, I think, later that night on our laptops, which is a really exciting game. But these two teams have a really fun run and gun, lots of give and go movements, big throws, and they did not disappoint. So Sixers were up 8-5 at half. So I think that probably surprised Molly Brown a little bit. Sixers feeling good. Molly Brown got into some breaks, and eventually it's tied at 11s. So Molly kept kind of rolling, getting some breaks every now and again. And unfortunately, they ended up beating the Sixers 15-13. So Sixers had it. 8-5 at half, it's like classically described as the most dangerous score to be leading by at half. I don't know what it is about 8-5 specifically. 8-4 is like the other team loses hope. At 8-5, there's enough hope that maybe if you're starting out, coming out at half, the other team kind of like sits back a little bit. Same thing happened to Traffic last year against Phoenix. We were up 8-5 at half. They just kind of sneak their way in it. And before you know it, you're tied and the momentum is not in your favor anymore. So Cindy Trong played big in this game. 1 goal, 3 assists. Reeve Chan, 2 goals. Tiff Zhang, one of my U20 kids, 2 goals and an assist. I saw a nice circus catch made by Tiff. Super exciting to see her getting minutes on the O-line for Sixers at this stage already. Britt Dos Santos, 1 goal, 4 assists, and 1 block. So because of this, Sixers then ended up being tied for 3rd overall. So last year they would have played out this game because it was a WUC qualifying year, but this year it's just a tie. How do you feel about that? Do you think that these teams should play them out?
Well, I'm interested in that, and I'm also interested in if Sixers is in this 3rd place final, they're qualifying out of Canada. So what would have happened last year if this was the case? Would they even play? I actually don't know. It would be kind of it'd be kind of cool to find out. But Ultiworld did their definitive power rankings of players, and Britt Dos Santos is pretty high up there. I got to find the exact number, but I believe top 5, if I'm not mistaken. Dane, did you get a chance to check that out? I didn't see your name on the list, but maybe next year. You know what I'm saying? So,
they don't like people who collect the pull and dump swing it. That's crazy.
I guess not. But that's a pretty cool list to be a part of. So kudos to the reporters and those putting it together. And it's always fun to see who ends up top in the list. But Britt Dos Santos ended up 4th on that list. So that's pretty cool.
Agreed. That's very cool. So that's it for the playoff bracket. We've got all these teams fighting for Pro Flight. Pro Flight, to explain to everybody why these games all matter, is if you finish in the top 8, you get to play against the top 8 teams at the tournaments. You get the first crack to the invite to all the best events. It really matters. You need these games against these opponents in order to improve throughout your season. So once we lost that game to Schwa, we knew that we needed to go win in order to make it into pro flight. It's an uphill battle once you lose that pre-quarter, but we had that goal kind of in mind because we clearly need to play against those top teams a little bit more. So just to give people some context, once you're out, you're still fighting. It matters.
And Traffic started their climb back up here against Minneapolis Pop. Starting things a little bit loose. After a tough loss, it's easy to get down on yourself. So the team decided to go with a little loose warm-up. Some silly antics, of course, to get things going. And Danie did mention the weirdness of the team. And if that's your team culture, don't change it now. You got to stick to it. So we talked about earlier about a pickup, a quote-unquote European pickup, Molly Wedge being Canadian, but an actual European pickup. Sarah Eklund tearing things up for Traffic. 1 goal, 2 assists, 2 blocks. And Sarah made a big impact throughout this tournament for your team. So speaking of Sarah's another Sarah that's also tearing up on your O-line, Sarah Norton, 3 goals and 3 blocks. So having those two on the offensive line really adds a lot of things for defenses to keep track of, right?
I need to interrupt you for a second to explain how amazing it is to be an O-line handler, to get the disc literally anywhere in the field and to see Sarah Eklund, Sarah Norton, Chewy, Helena Tremblay, Jessica Ty, all of our O-line cutters, you're like, which one? They're all so fast, tall. No, they're not all tall, but the Sarahs and Chewy, specifically as deep threats, are insane. I threw 1,000% more hucks this tournament than last season because there's so much trust. I threw 1 last season, and this tournament, I think I threw 16. Only 1 was not completed, and they weren't all good hucks.
Wow, you kept count.
That's how good
I like
they
that.
are.
Well, I like the count that you kept in your own mind. That's good too.
It's an average. Yeah.
So after this game, moving into the 7th place semis, these are 2 teams, if I'm not mistaken, were at Worlds. I know you played Nightlock. I'm not sure if you played Pop at Worlds, but you're up 6-1 at a point in this game, and this happens. You let the foot off the gas. 1 point, it's 11-10, but Traffic able to take the victory 15-10. Someone we haven't talked about yet that you might hear about in the college season, Madison Ung, 3 goals. Sophia Chan, 4 goals, an assist, and a block, which sets up their matchup, a rematch on Saturday. Is that right?
Yeah.
Saturday morning. Got to hype it up. Against Schwa, the team that knocked them out. So Schwa gets knocked out in quarters. And so it sets up this matchup. Correct?
Correct. So one thing, I follow Schwa on Instagram, and I know I never thought that there was beef between our teams, but maybe if you lose 5 times in a season to a team, you hate them or something, or I don't know what, but some of their stories on Instagram were when they zoomed in on the score reporter score of them beating us 15-9, and then they were revenge, and they had some funny stories that they were sharing, and that really motivated me, not gonna lie.
Well, Danie, you are I don't want to say you're the founder of this, but you did talk about Revenge Tour in another tournament. So teams flipping it out on you, going Revenge Tour on you. But the joke is perhaps on the other foot here because Traffic gets the revenge. They take it 15-7. They got the high energy. They're taking half 8-4. Chewy ends the tournament with 3 goals and a block in this game. Andrew Moyer, 4 goals. D-line? Is that right?
Yeah. I mean, our D-line obviously played a lot if it's 15-7.
Yeah, exactly. So D-line getting 4 goals. And what does that mean? That means Traffic is in the pro flight. They're fired up about that. Danie's celebrating over here. You can't see it. But yeah, in the pro flight. And that's pretty good because then you get the added competition next year, which is going to set you up for hopefully a big run next year at the National Championships.
Yeah, it was really exciting. I think our sideline energy is something that other teams potentially find annoying, but we try to win on the field and off the field. So when our D-line scores, we are literally rushing the field like animals on all fours, barking. Like we go animal style. So I think that this kind of new vibe and culture for Traffic is really exciting because we are an energy team. So it was really nice to kind of get this. We ended up tying for 7th with Scandal, not a scrub team. So super exciting to be able to get these opportunities. Moving on to mixed. So we're going to be talking about Red Flag. Their 7th place quarter. Red Flag was facing Toro as a rematch, as we said earlier. So Flag's trailing down at half. They're trailing down 7-10 at one point in the second. Then they get 5 breaks in a row to take the lead. 5 breaks in a row. Alex Lamb showed me his score sheet or whatever, and he just kept putting the same line on over and over and over again. I think Danie Jahan was actually on this line. So Zelmont in this game, 3 goals. Abir Lamba, 3 goals and an assist. So that's big. It's so big for them to be able to win this game. So that means another rematch for Flag. They haven't played many American teams yet. They've played the same American teams. So they're playing against AMP again. Unfortunately, the result is not much different than their result against them in pool play. So they ended up losing 12-15. AMP started up 3-0 to start the game right away, and Flag just could not recover. Mika Kurahashi, 3 blocks in this game, though. Edward Guo with 2 goals. I just said Edward Goal with 2 goals. Maybe you should change
Edward Goal. That's his new nickname. That's her new nickname, man.
Pretty sick. So unfortunately, they lose that. So now they are going to be knocked out of Pro Flight, but they're going to be playing against at least a team that's new to them in Dirty Birds. So final game of their tournament, they're playing against Dirty Birds. Nick Choi had a big game, 2 goals, an assist and a block. Mika K, 4 goals. Not too many breaks in this game, seemed to be pretty clean. Flag did get a break late in the game to force Universe, but they couldn't quite score the last point, so they end up losing 14-15. I think that means that Flag finishes 12th overall and that they're in the Elite Select flight if they choose to play in the USA Series next year.
Oh, there you go. And, I don't know if they have the full, I know they have stats per the team, but do they have goals for the whole tournament? Because you've said Mika K's name a lot, so I want to know if how she ranks up with some of the other players in mixed, and specifically where she would match up with. We talked about this in a previous episode, female matching players scoring points for your team and how it's a good strategy. It's not just a good strategy, it's a good idea, but Mika definitely showing that here for Red Flag. So we'll see if we can find that for you. But in the meantime, we're talking about Open. So GOAT, you get to play a team that you beat all the way back in 2014. Not many players remaining, I think, for both teams from that time when GOAT had a big win on Universe quarterfinals, a little scoober from Derek Alexander to Jeff Lindquist, if those remember. It's on Ultiworld somewhere on YouTube. But it's 15-9 for Revolver. You got strong games from James Lewis and JJ Edwards, who we talked about earlier, big O-line players for them. But down 8-4, the vaunted 8-4, not able to recover, so they lose 15-9. They get a take on Mad Men, and there was an article that came out yesterday about the best and worst jerseys, and Mad Men had baseball jerseys at the tournament. That's fire. I love that as a baseball fan, an avid baseball fan. So, Mad Men, if any of you are listening to this, I would love a jersey. I'll pay for one, and you can ship it over from Madison, Wisconsin, or maybe I'll come to Madison sometime and I'll pick one of those up. One of the Lewis brothers here, not sure which one, 3 assists and a goal. You led 8-5 at half, and you kept lead the whole game, which sets you up with a game against Seattle Sockeye. And Seattle Sockeye is one of these polarizing teams because they got the swagger. They've won. They've been successful. They also got the jerseys that not everyone is a fan of. Let's just be real. So I don't know if that plays into anything, but anyways, they play Seattle Sockeye. Both teams are knocked out of Pro Flight. And this game is for 13th. And GOAT, you defeat Sockeye. Aki Muroka, 2 goals, 2 assists. Mikey, you go a little 3 for 3 there. 3 goals, 3 assists. And you score 5 straight to finish out the game. That's pretty impressive. There's a funny Sockeye GOAT tweet. Danie, can you talk about that? Because I try to keep up on the internet sphere, but clearly I missed this.
So I guess once Sockeye was kind of out of kind of any important contention games or whatever, they did a tweet. They're like, I'm going to paraphrase. It's like, we're going to go totally rest a bunch tonight, hydrate, make sure that we're in tip-top shape for our 13th place game against GOAT or something. And like they're very much trolling that they're going to go party. And then GOAT had a response. If you give me like a hot minute, I can pull it up for you, but it was very funny. So it's unsurprising to me that Sockeye did not play that well in that final game. I mean, they didn't play that well this whole tournament.
While Danny's going to look for that tweet, we'll talk about another thing that happened on the Reddit sphere. Wilkie Lewis posting this up on Reddit. There was a big foul that happened by Sockeye that was uncontested that, at least from my vantage point, looked like a foul. So that got people stirring there about Seattle Ultimate. So, Canadian teams aren't the only ones that get targeted or said that they have poor spirit. And so this is what we saw there. But that was a thing. Once again, you can see on Reddit for yourself if you don't believe us or want to pass your own judgment there.
So the tweet. Sockeye says, now it's time to take care of ourselves and drink plenty of fluids tonight so we can be at our best for this 13th place game tomorrow at 9 a.m. versus GOAT. Then GOAT responded, we should see who could be more refreshed. And then Sockeye said, get your crew of 10 together, shotgun, waterfall time to beat is 53 seconds, 15 smaller seconds, milliseconds. Then GOAT says, vids are lies. And then Sockeye says, this is the best we got, showing a watch. And then GOAT posted their like calculator watch and it just says boobs on it, which is really funny. And then GOAT also posted a video of them shotgunning on the beach, says, TBH, we did not understand the assignment. And then they said, this is great. Cheers, boys. So they're having some banter back and forth prior to their game happening, which I am obsessed with. I think Ultimate's so funny. Okay, I have some stats here for you.
Give me the stats. Come on.
I'm not going to be able to go through all, but Mika Kurahashi was 6th overall in goals in the mixed division. The next highest Canadian would be Gagan Chatha at 9. And then Gagan Chatha was 6th overall in assists in the mixed division. Sam Creed with 11 goals. On the women's division, the leading goal scorer for Canadians was Sarah Norton at 13, followed by Sophia Chan and Inka Westman. Leading assists for Canadians, Jessica Rockcliffe at 12, it looks like. And then a few Canadians at 11. And then in the open division, JJ Edwards actually was the leading goal scorer in open at 17 overall.
Let's go, JJ. Let's
go. Let's see, for assists, the highest Canadian, I could be wrong, Ian McKenzie at 13. I could have potentially missed somebody. So if I missed you, I apologize. Your favorite topic now, Theo. Guess what it is?
Baseball.
Yes. So in baseball, there's lots of cheering and lots of spirit. And so that's what we're going to be talking about right now. Spirit scores. They've come in, and I have to tell you, it does not look super good for Canada or Canadian teams at this moment, with the exception of GOAT. GOAT came in 4th overall, which is amazing. So good job, GOAT. I saw that spirit on when you were sidelining, so it does not surprise me that you're bringing that caliente energy to your own games as well. So good job, GOAT. Sixers came in 13th. I do want to shout out Sixers because there was a category that they were above 2 in. And if you are unfamiliar with the scoring system, 2s across the board is like a good score. In order to give a team a 3, it has to be like exceptional, or a 4 even more exceptional, or a 1 is like, it was not quite up to our standard, and a 0, it was really bad. So Sixers actually got above 2 in a category. I believe it was fair-mindedness. So I want to recognize them for that. In terms of traffic and flag, both teams came dead last. Sadly, I'm going to speak unofficially for Traffic. I was doing Spirit stuff for Traffic. I was doing the Spirit scores, and I was helping Monica Sue, who is our Spirit captain, do Spirit stuff. So I am in those conversations. When we were going through the sheet, we were like, okay, all these teams are giving us 10s, 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 10s. We were getting 2s across the board for all categories. We were in a really good spot for Spirit. All of a sudden, this team gives us a 5. A 5. We've never been given a 5 before, so it was like really surprising. So we were given 1s in every category, and we're really surprised by this because we check in before the games, we check in at half, and we talk with the Spirit captains afterwards. So we're really not sure even which team gave us this score. We think maybe it was a mistake. We're not sure, but we're determined to find out by kind of DMing these teams to see, because if there was a game that was so bad for another team, like their experience playing against us, where it warranted a 5, that is something that we want to discuss, because at this point we have no information. So we come last. I feel really good about our Spirit. So the scores are what they are. I think if 6 out of 7 teams give you a good score and one team gives you a really bad score, something happened and we need to figure it out. So that's kind of my disclaimer for that. I think Red Flag was kind of a bit more consistent. One team actually ended up giving them a 12, which was really good, but some other teams I think were a little bit lower on the fouls and body contact, but that did seem like a trend in the mixed division in general. I think Flag and Traffic still both finished 9 or above though, right? Yes. Okay. So that's good.
Flag finishes on the dot with a 9, but their lowest scores are rules knowledge 1.57 and fair-mindedness. They got 2.14, which is above the normal 2 in that. So good for them. But yeah, I mean, both so the average for mixed was 10.05. And the average for women's was 9.79. So it's below 10 in women's, is all I'm saying. Yeah, there are more teams below 10.
Interesting.
In Spirit than above 10. So I'm looking now. 7 teams above 10 and then 9 teams below 10. So there you go.
Interesting.
Our in-depth Spirit analysis, as we always do, Danie.
I mean, Deep Look doesn't do this, so it is technically in depth because we just do it. But that wraps up our USAU recap for 2022. Congrats to all those athletes that participated. And if you were not able to make it to the show this year, the grind starts now. Start that lifting. I got back on the lift train for the first time yesterday. I'm ready to go. I want to finish. I want to be in semis. I want to make it to finals next year. So join me. Join me there. Theo, I believe in you.
Yeah, I don't think I'll be playing at the show anytime soon, but maybe I'll be playing at the Canadian show. But yeah, keep training out there, folks. And keep following us on Instagram. We're apparently growing followers there. We love it. We DM teams through that as well. So keep track of all things Huckin through that, or you can email us, huckin@ultiworld.com. You can, I guess, message us on Facebook or Twitter. I don't know if we really check that. So Instagram, DM, or email, or just send us a personal email if you want to, or personal message. Stay tuned for subscriber only. Danie, you're going to give a little insight. I know you're quite the party goer. So you're going to talk about some of the antics and things that Traffic was up to, as much as you can share, of course, in a subscriber only, and kind of give some insight into behind the scenes stuff with teams. Often we just see what teams do, on the field or on stream. So it's kind of fun to get some insight. So we're gonna do that subscriber only. So we'll head over there right now. Otherwise, if you're not gonna head over there, we'll see you next week.
Bye.